Hello, I'm maybe X and welcome back to the video. So a lot of people have different thoughts and different feelings about the Pocket Edition version of Minecraft now becoming the Xbox version of the game. It's really strange to see a game which started on phones and still is on phones be the exact same game as the game that is run on console, and a lot of people either outraged or confused or just, kind of curious about what the differences truly are between these games. So I figured in today's video, why not show you gameplay of both, kind of switch from one to the other, show you what the exact same world looks like on one version than the other, and then talk about what these differences are so you can know the differences between when you're playing on your Xbox and when you're playing on your phone. And it's surprising how these results do go, but hopefully you do all enjoy this video regardless. Like if you do like it, because it helps out the channel, and let's know you do like these sorts of comparison videos. I like to do these between different versions of Minecraft, because people are always curious, like, should I even get this if I have that? And in this case, it is a really interesting one, because, we'll just get straight into it, and you'll see what I mean later. So let's start with the graphical kind of side of things, because obviously the first thing you notice about Minecraft is how it looks, and the version that runs on the console does look better, both in terms of, like, how the game renders out, but also just in terms of the fact that it runs at 1080p always, regardless of your device, because it's always an Xbox One, and it has an 8 to 22 chunk render distance. So the phone I'm using to compare this to is actually a Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. It's a pretty recent smartphone. It's one of the more powerful devices you can have. I know there's like S8s and stuff now, but the point being is it's a pretty powerful smartphone as a good example, and this only has 14 chunks as its max render distance. So bear in mind, the interesting thing about this too is the fact that when you have this one piece of hardware, its performance over time is going to go down. Interestingly enough, like when this update came out, a lot of the render distance amounts you could have went down to kind of like account for the fact that it's more intensive, and this is something interesting about the phone version where that render distance is going to go down slowly over time, whereas the Xbox is presumably going to stick with its 22 chunk render distance. So yeah, the Pocket Edition has 14 chunks on our particular test device, which means that it has about, only, like 2/3 the render distance on a fairly high-end phone versus the render distance you do have on an Xbox. So it's higher on the console version, but not as high as you would expect given the fact that this is a dedicated gaming console with the specs it does have. It's not so powerful in today's world, but still, it's a pretty powerful gaming console, and this is just a phone. But yeah, still, it turns out about 2/3 the power is found on the phone versus the console, and you'll also see some visual differences in terms of like menus and stuff, but there's no functional differences between these menus. As far as I can tell, no menu in the game is better or worse on one version or the other. It's just they've rearranged them to make it more, convenient for one platform or the other, so that's why you'll see menus look different, but the game runs exactly the same. It's just you get different render distances, you get different, frame rates, and you get different resolutions, as well as sometimes different menu designs. So graphically, the Xbox version does have the edge there. Also in terms of like graphically over time, it's presumably going to be better, which means Xbox does get the point on this one. But when it comes to multiplayer, it's kind of interesting again, because it kind of like goes both ways about this, because multiplayer is better on phones if you just want to play with friends who are on different devices in a nearby area, or that you just know and you want to play with. You're like, oh yeah, hop on your phone, play some Minecraft with me. However, if you want to play Minecraft with friends who have Xboxes, not only do you have to own your Xbox Ones or whatever, you have to own your Xbox console, but you also have to pay for online. It's not like it's optional. Even if you pay for Realms, which is £6 whatever a month or whatever, you can't just pay for Realms without paying for Xbox Live. It was always assumed there'd be some deal to kind of make that make more sense, because you're paying for online for Minecraft, but no, you have to pay for online for Minecraft, then you have to pay for online for your Xbox One, whereas it's free on your phone version. So just keep that in mind, that the Xbox One version loses this one massively. It's the exact same online service, but because of console requirements and because Microsoft can't play fair with their own game, it means that you have to pay money for the exact same service you get on the Pocket Edition for free, using the exact same count at the exact same time in the exact same worlds. But that's the way things are, and that means that the Pocket Edition just wins this one. It's just free for something that costs more on the console. However, the Xbox One then gets another point back, because it does have split screen, going on it. So that means you can play with 2 people on the same console. You can play with 4 people on the same console, I believe, and there's frame rate issues or whatever for that, because we're in this temporary beta. But over time, again, that's going to be fixed, and it's going to mean that there's going to be a better multiplayer functionality on console if you're willing to pay for it, or if you're not willing to pay for it, you have to get people to play on their phones. But still, you pay more, but you get slightly more for it, which is an interesting kind of way that works, but it makes sense given the platform. And it brings us to the interesting situation where it's like, oh yeah, so they both have something to offer when it comes to multiplayer, but mostly the Pocket Edition, the free thing, is kind of a big deal. A monthly subscription for me at least is kind of a big deal, and maybe it is for yourself too. And that's where a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, well, I mean, the console makes sense, but then the subscription. But yeah, this is just a constant Xbox Live issue, but it's especially interesting now. It's the exact same game with the exact same worlds. This is the only case where this is like 100% true in that way. So next up we have controls, where we're going to point out that the Xbox One technically has less input methods than your phone. However, your phone is going to lose this one, because the touchscreen on any device you have is not going to be as intuitive, and it's not going to be as accurate, or as it's not really going to have the same power as you're going to have with your controller. And I know that's like, you might say that's a subjective thing. Some people are really good at touchscreens, but I think when you go check out PvP, you can instantly tell if someone's using a touchscreen, they're at a big disadvantage versus someone who's using a controller. So technically speaking, speaking, you can argue, well, I mean, you can use a keyboard, mouse, or a controller in your phones. One, the controller connections you get for phones, maybe they've changed it now, but anytime I play with it, like, you can feel, it doesn't feel, as good as it does on a console. Maybe there's some weird controller technology there, and technically both versions can use keyboard and mouse too, but realistically, who's playing on their Xbox One with a keyboard and mouse? Some people might, but very few people are playing their phones with a keyboard and mouse. Like, who's sat there like, I'm gonna hop on the train, I'm gonna play my phone version, oh, better pull out my keyboard, pull out, this giant keyboard thing, better pull out my mouse as well. People aren't playing the Pocket Edition with a keyboard and mouse for the most part. I know some people are, but the majority of people aren't, so it comes down to touchscreen versus controller support, and I think controller really has the edge on this one, although technically it is worth mentioning that the Pocket Edition has more control methods, because you can use all three, but only one of them makes sense. So I'll give them both point here in terms of, like, Xbox on average is better, but technically, because the PE has touch as well as all the other ones, it's the same thing. But it's just one of those interesting little things here, where, yeah, they technically both win, but on average, the Xbox One is going to have better controls, and that's why online you'll see the people who play either Xbox or play the PC kind of dominate people who are just playing regular Pocket Edition. So it's interesting already just how many differences you're seeing in, like, again, it's the exact same game, or at least, like, you can play with people without even realizing they're a different game, but yet there are all these differences already, and one of these other interesting differences comes to the updates, where you might think, well, I mean, if it's the same game toy count, it's going to be updated at the same time. However, the Xbox One, because it is a console and it has console certification processes, generally receives updates slower than the Pocket Edition version. So even though it's the exact same, game, and they're updating it in the exact same way at the exact same time, the time it takes to get to devices is usually going to be the same. Again, usually they want to, like, they'll delay the phone version, so it coincides with the Xbox. However, sometimes there are, emergency updates, or there's DLC updates, or there's anything going on like that, and it will always happen faster if you have a phone version, because the certification process there seems to be less stringent, especially on Android, but, like, even on iOS, it's less stringent than it is on the Xbox One. So yeah, for the most part, updates pretty much the same, but they sometimes come out on the phone's version faster. We saw this in the beta particularly, where they got an advanced version that the Xbox didn't even get when that update came out, because they're like, oh yeah, we might as well do this rather than waiting. They said like that somewhere in the patch notes. It's really one of these things where it's like the Xbox certification process makes sense for console games, but a game updating as much as Minecraft doesn't really make so much sense there, and it means you get a big leg up on the Pocket Edition this terms of things. So then we end up talking about, well, what about sharing content? Because one of the best things about Minecraft, one of the things that made the Java version of the game so successful in a ways, is the fact that you can share things so much, and this was always true for the Pocket Edition. What about the console version? So technically speaking, they're trying as hard as they can to make any form of sharing possible. They're making it so, like, technically you can take a world from the PC if it's been saved on the phone or the thing version. You can take .mc worlds, you'll be able to put them onto your Xbox. You can take texture pack files, you'll be able to put anything like that onto your Xbox. However, there's always going to be the process of having to use your PC, and it doesn't work for every form of DLC. You can't do that with mashup packs, you can't do that with I know, like, skins, it's a little bit weird in how that works, especially right now you can't do it. Basically, as far as DLC comes on console, you have to pay for any of the stuff that you would be able to, get for, like, free. Again, most people don't. Like, most people do pay for it, so it's only, like, the tiniest leg up, but it is worth mentioning that all of this, content where they say, oh yeah, well, we charge for it in the marketplace, but you can get it by yourself for free anyway. That's not true on the console. If you want to get any of this content, you do have to pick it up in the marketplace, and I think that brings us into the last and most ridiculous point here, which is, the price. And I'm not trying to just rail on this here. I do have a constructive solution at the end, but the price of the game is where it really just becomes silly, because you'll notice all these leg ups the Pocket Edition version of the game has in terms of, like, oh yeah, well, it's cheaper in that way, and then it's cheaper in that way, then it's cheaper in that way, and it's the exact same game, and then it gets updates earlier sometimes, but it gets ridiculous when you get to the price, because it's $20 right now for the Minecraft Xbox version if you want the Xbox edition of the game. But if you want this exact same game, again, the only difference is the fact that you can play it on a different platform, and the fact that it supports controller on console and touchscreen on the phone, but it's somewhere between $2 and $8 depending on sales and a whole bunch of things like that. But let's just say it's 3 times the price on console than it is in the Pocket Edition. That's probably going to go up because there's slight price increases, rumors, and also the fact that if you want to buy it on a disc, you have to buy it with DLC. But let's just say it's 3 times the price to make things easy. So it's 3 times the price, sometimes 10 times the price, on the console version versus the Pocket Edition. And given that you're getting the exact same game, I can see why people hear all this sort of stuff and go, well, they made a game clearly specifically for these phones and these open platforms, and that's amazing. They made a really good version of the game, but they didn't consider that this loses a lot of benefit when you go to a closed platform like a console. They didn't take advantage of all the things you could have on a closed platform like a console. Instead, they just figured, like, well, we have all this stuff that works over there, why doesn't it just work here? And that's why overall I'm going to say that really the Pocket Edition is a worse version of the game. I'm not going to play it over my Xbox, but you can see why people get upset when they realize that it's the exact same game, but cheaper in every single way. And I think the easiest kind of compromise solution to this would be, like, why not make it so everyone gets either, like, let's just say, like, 1,000 free coins when they transfer over, or more simply than that, why not give people access access to like one free piece of every point of DLC. So you can make it like, well, I mean, it sucks that you can't go out and manually get your own mashup packs, and it sucks that if you want to get a world, you have to go through all these steps that you can't technically do right now. Why not just make it so like, oh yeah, well, given that the Pocket Edition clearly shouldn't have this many leg ups on a console game, which, you know, we're trying to get people in love with this game, and then we're saying it's the same game, so why not instead be like, yeah, have a free world, have a free mashup pack, have a free skin pack, even just one piece of DLC at all, just be like, hey, do you want to download something? Have it on us. I think that would be something that makes people feel better. Like, yeah, I mean, because we paid $20 for this game, and it makes sense that given that we're paying $20 for something that's like $8 or $7 elsewhere, it makes sense that that's there. But also, it probably helps their DLC sales in the future. Like, if you see something there and you're like, well, I'm going to enjoy my free thing, it might encourage you to actually feel like they're worth paying for in future. Whereas a lot of people are avoiding them at all costs because microtransactions are a very mobile game thing to do. You know, like you see them as like a way to make up the fact that a game is either free or it doesn't cost much. Like in this case, when you see them on a console and you're like, well, I don't really want that. I'm not going to try. A lot of people do just figure like I'm not going to try and support that, or I don't want to pick up these Minecraft coins or whatever. Why not give people some free Minecraft coins or a free Minecraft purchase? It's a win-win for everyone. There's an idea right there. But no, that's my constructive feedback. My non-constructive, just like here's my feelings, is like this makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. However, I think as time goes onwards, we're gonna get more features to make it worthwhile on the console. I don't think they necessarily thought of them yet, or they haven't been able to implement them yet. But I'm hoping they can help make this divide better, because it doesn't make sense if you have the same game on phone and on the consoles, because then a lot of the benefits of the phone aren't found on the console, and then you have a game which is technically better on the phones than the consoles, which I don't think makes too much sense at all. So yeah, that was my constructive feedback. There's my kind of feelings on it. I'm still going to enjoy Minecraft a lot regardless. I kind of make these just to kind of point the facts out there, because it does seem a bit ridiculous on the surface. Let me know what you think though in the comments down below. I know there's like an instinctive like rage thing to this whole thing, but no, I like I said, I'm going to enjoy Minecraft regardless. I just feel like it's worth knowing this, and maybe you all do agree. Like it if you liked it, share if you really liked it, subscribe if you're new around here, and make sure you bell me, because it does improve your chances of winning any given rock paper scissors game by at least 5%. So yeah, with that said, before I go here, I just want to mention that it feels weird when I make a video that almost has this like negative overtone to it, where someone's going to be like, someone might look at this and be like, oh, that's the worst thing in the world, and then be angry with either me or just be angry in general. But I don't think that's the correct reaction, and I don't think that's a good thing to be, because that discourages YouTubers from being able to make honest videos like this one. So hopefully you do all support the fact that I'm just gonna make it, you know, when something like this comes up, I'm gonna go through it, I'm gonna try and be objective and actually talk the truth, rather than saying, oh, but it's really fine, and, you know, towing the line which a lot of people will want to do to keep up pretenses, or keep up views, or keep up, like, conversations with Microsoft. Let me know what you think, though. Thank you very much for watching, and I guess I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.